You ever wish you had a perfect memory? You know, the kind where you could remember every single conversation, every face, every little fact you've ever learned? It really sounds like the ultimate superpower, right? The secret weapon to ace every test and win every argument. But what if that power wasn't a gift?
See, this idea isn't new. The brilliant writer Jorge Luis Borges imagined a character, Iriana Funes, who was cursed with a perfect memory. And for Funes, his mind wasn't some pristine, organized library of facts. Nope, it was a chaotic, overwhelming rubbish heap of completely useless detail.
And that right there is the big question we're going to dive into. What if the ability to forget is actually one of the most important and seriously overlooked features of the human brain?
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to rewind the clock, way back. We're going to an era when having a powerful memory wasn't just impressive, it was considered the absolute peak of human intellect. It was seen as a divine gift.
You really can't talk about this without mentioning Pliny the Elder in ancient Rome. In his enormous encyclopedia, the Naturalis Historia, he actually dedicated entire sections to celebrating people with just astonishing memories. We're talking about kings who knew the names of all their soldiers, ambassadors who could name every senator in Rome after being there for just a single day.
And I mean, listen to Pliny himself here. For him, it was a given that memory was the boon most necessary for life. The only debate was about who had the best memory. The idea that you could have too much memory, that wasn't even on the radar.
But then, that classical ideal was about to get flipped completely on its head. A new wave of philosophers and psychologists started putting forward a really radical idea. In order to truly think, you must first be able to forget.
And this quote from William James, the father of modern psychology, just nails the shift perfectly. He argued that a mind totally cluttered with every single memory wouldn't be powerful, it would be paralyzed. He realized that forgetting isn't a failure of memory. It's a necessary condition for memory to even work in the first place.
And he wasn't alone. The philosopher Nietzsche claimed that to act, to move forward at all, we have to forget the past. And remember Borges' character, Funes, the guy who remembered every leaf on every tree? Well, Borges wrote that Funes was not very capable of thinking. And why is that? Because to think abstractly, you need to generalize. You need to see the concept of a dog, not just a flood of images of every single dog you've ever seen in excruciating detail. Forgetting clears out the junk so we can see the pattern. Funes was trapped in that rubbish heap of specifics, totally unable to form the general ideas that are the building blocks of thought.
Now, this isn't just some philosophical debate or a clever literary device. This so-called superpower is a real, documented, and, as it turns out, often incredibly burdensome medical condition.
It's called hyperthymesia, or HSAM for short. And people with this condition have an unbelievably detailed memory, but it's specifically for their own life experiences. They can remember what they did, what they wore, and what the weather was like on pretty much any given day of their lives.
So let me introduce you to Jill Price. She was the first person ever diagnosed with HSAM. Back in 2000, she wrote to a neuroscientist named James McGaugh, and she described her memory as a movie that was just constantly running in her head, a movie she couldn't turn off.
And just listen to how she describes it in her own words. It wasn't a gift. It was nonstop, uncontrollable, and totally exhausting. It was, as she put it, a burden. I mean, just think about the implications of that for a second. For people with HSAM, painful or embarrassing memories don't fade with time. The emotional sting is just as sharp decades later. Just like Borges' fictional character Funes, they are so flooded with details from the past that it becomes incredibly difficult to focus on the present or even think about the future.
So, if our brains are actually designed to forget, how in the world does that work? Well, it turns out that forgetting isn't this passive thing where memories just kind of decay over time. No, it's an active and absolutely vital function.
Your brain is basically acting like a master curator. First, it filters the constant flood of information coming at you. Then, it prioritizes what's actually important. And finally, it actively purges the rest. This whole process clears out the mental clutter, which lets us form new memories and, this is the crucial part, lets us generalize from our experiences.
And this isn't just theory. We can actually see the physical differences in brain structure. These scans show that in people with HSAM, the connections are way stronger between the parts of the brain that store memories, like the hippocampus, and the parts involved in our sense of self. It's like their life story is physically hardwired for constant involuntary retrieval. Think of it like a highway with no off-ramps. Every memory is always accessible, flooding the system. that normal delete button that most of our brains use, it seems to be missing.
So what all of this shows is that a healthy mind isn't about having a perfect memory at all. It's really about finding the right balance between remembering and forgetting.
You can really think of it as two extremes, right? On one side, you have amnesia, the loss of a past, an inability to remember. And on the other, you have hyperthymesia, being totally trapped by the past, unable to forget. A healthy mind has to navigate that huge space right in the middle.
And you know what's wild? The ancient Greeks totally understood this on an intuitive level. In their mythology about the afterlife, souls had to drink from two different rivers, the river Mnemosyne, to remember, but also the river Lethe, to forget. They knew that to move forward, to be reborn, you needed both.
Which brings us to our final, and maybe our most important point, the incredible freedom that comes with our beautifully imperfect selective memory.
Far from being some kind of bug in our system, the ability to forget is a critical feature. It's not a sign of failure, it's a sign that your brain is working exactly as it's supposed to. It's a feature, not a bug.
Forgetting is what allows us to forgive. It's what softens the sharp edges of painful memories, which is what lets us heal. It clears the mental slate so we can learn new things, adapt to new situations, and build a coherent story of who we are without being completely imprisoned by every single mistake we've ever made.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. If forgetting is this active process that clears space for whatever's coming next, what piece of your own past would you consciously choose to let go of to make more room for your future?